Hi, my name is Tyler, and this is Aftertouch Audio. I want to start this video off by saying I am not a Foley artist, but I do work with, cut, and mix Foley quite often. We just finished a sound design challenge over on the Aftertouch Audio Discord where we go ahead and pull up a clip from the Dying Light 2 game and did a total redesign for it. Here's the clip everyone had to work with. This week, I figured I would go ahead and try my hand at this redesign and then do a quick session breakdown on what I did, how I approached the clip, and why I did certain things. So let's get on over to the DAW. Usually when I start a clip like this, I go through the entire thing and make notes about specific elements I want to highlight. In this case, the first pass of markers was mostly meant for feet layers, as they were going to be the biggest part of this redesign. In this clip, we have rooftop feet, metal feet, some sort of tile or linoleum, hardwood, puddles, and hollow wood. Once I got the roadmap going, it's time to start the actual design. I started out by filling out my atmospheres. By having a nice bed of atmos in place, it really helps influence the rest of the sounds that I'll be designing for this clip. Now, normally I don't touch the ambiances when I'm working with film, but in this case, I wanted to transition from the outside to inside smoother. Because there are no windows in this building, I wanted to continue to play the exterior ambiances just with a slight filter and a reduced stereo width. With these elements in place, it was time to start cutting the feet. I spent a lot of time getting the feet to sound exactly the way I want them. There is a lot going on here with all the surface changes, but basically I started out by using my contact instruments to cut the feet in, and then I would add the sweeteners in wherever it needed, like metal, water, creaking wood, creaking metal, and additional gravelly bits. Once that was done, it was time to start cutting more specific effects and additional Foley. Now, the way I like to work is I like to go through the entire clip and just put something in the timeline for all of the effects. Doesn't matter what it is, it can be a really shitty little effect, but it just needs to have something there so when I come back, I can then go ahead and refine and craft and layer my elements. For the first pass, I focus on cloth movements, this wind thing from when the player makes longer jumps, additional Foley, splat, the distant car, and Tim. This guy's name is Tim. He has some fantastic things to say.
It's a miracle.
The next thing I did was I added in some zombie vocals when the player is going into the house and, well, you know, splat. But now, let's play a quick game of multiple choice. For the player's voice, did I A. record, process, and mix them myself? B. pull the voices from a library and use those assets? Or C. did I cheat? I cheated. I found this video of Kyle Crane's voice from the original Dying Light game, and I just downloaded them, edited them into place, and then just called it a day. Now, before I get attacked in the comments, let me explain the method of my cheating. The reason why I use the voices and music from the game in my redesign is not 100% laziness. Yeah, there's a little bit in there, but it's not solely based on laziness. Because I'm referencing Dying Light 2 for my redesign, I want to make sure that the sounds I create fit within the context of Dying Light 2. This is a very common thing in my workflow where I will go ahead and design an asset, put it up against sounds like Call of Duty, and see if my sounds go ahead and stack up to what they've designed. If they don't, I will then go ahead and figure out why they're not, and then do any sort of amount of redesigns to get it to sounding the way I want it to be.
You do.
So, without further ado, here's a finished clip with and without music. As this is a community challenge, I've gone ahead and asked 2 of my friends to go ahead and break down what they did.
I guess I am addicted to showing my face in my videos. Anyway, it's just a few seconds of me saying hi and thank you, Tyler, for having me. Let's have a look at my Pro Tools session. So this is how my Pro Tools session looks like. There are a few sections marked with different colors, not only for aesthetics, but for making my work faster. So starting from the top, there are footsteps, later impacts, other follies, zombie sounds, background ambiances, main character's voice, and the car. Below I have auxes for all aforementioned groups of sounds, 2 reverbs for outside and inside, SFX bus and the mix bus. First thing I usually do when making redesign like this is choosing the sound which is appearing most often to start my work with. In this case, footsteps. So I chose the bass for my steps and layered with additional sounds like grass, wood, metal. Let's have a listen. And workflow like this helps me a lot because the most tiring and time-consuming job is done at the beginning. And all of the rest is usually more pleasant and faster to do. Maybe besides doing the final mix. Let's move on. Next thing are so-called impact sounds, so simply all of the additional hits and bumps. Here they come. These orange ones are misc, aka others, and here I have all of the cloth sounds, gentle rustles, creaks, and so on. Greens are ambiances. I used 3: quiet city, outside wind howling, and interior wind sounds. That's because the city looks quite empty and the zombies we see could be the reason for it. This is the only thing I recorded myself. Main character's voice, breathing mostly and few other things. I took Neumann U87, a monitor with video playback, and pretended to be a voice actor. Last thing is a car, nothing fancy, just playing with pan and putting it in the right perspective. In case of mixing this one, there is a lot of space for turning this session into any mood you want. It's just raw effects mostly, with few plugins that are just placing all of the sounds in the right space, panning, gain, and automation changes. So now it looks for me like anybody can jump into my session and spice it up the way he or she wants. What I want to say is I really wanted to go outside to record all of the sounds by myself with my mic, video playback like, pro Foley artist. But the weather was just terrible. It was raining, it was windy, it was cold. So I challenged myself to only use sounds from Soundly. And everything besides my voice actually are sound effects from Soundly, and I think they worked quite well. But if you're looking for weapon samples that will kick your ass off your chair, forget about Soundly and visit Tyler's Kickstarter. Back his project and make the most glorious gun sound library happen. If you want to support me, however, I will be honored if you jump onto my YouTube channel called Cactuzz Sound and become a subscriber. Big thanks to Tyler again, and until next time.
Hey Tyler, thanks for setting up such an awesome challenge. Let's take a look at my Pro Tools session. Every engineer has their own workflow, and for me personally, I like to start with Ambiances. Starting with Ambiances really helps me build out the world that I'm gonna be creating in. For this particular challenge, I took kind of the same approach that Tyler did, where I only had one type of ambience, and then I just EQ'd it differently based on where the player was. The next step for me was footsteps. And in this, believe me, there were a lot of footsteps. Not only were there several types of footsteps, such as running or jumping and sliding, there's also several different types of materials in here as well. Now, like Tyler mentioned, I'm no Foley artist either. So when it came to the Foley, I thought I'd try my hand at it. And I've actually found that these cheap polyester bags that everybody gives out for swag, mixed with a really heavy towel, makes for some really nice cloth movement while you're running. Once the Foley was finished, it was time for my favorite part, the sound effects. So for a scene like this, I knew I had to get this zombie squish just right. So I ripped open my copy of Haunted Effects from Rick Veers and went to work. Honestly, the most difficult part of this whole thing was this little truck off in the distance. Most libraries have either close pass-bys or interior constantly driving, so I had to get a little creative and take an interior shot and do a lot of work with some reverb and panning. The final layer I added was all of the voiceovers. The zombie sounds I got from a library, but as far as the player goes, well, it kinda sounds like a really terrible ASMR session with somebody struggling to use the bathroom. So now that we've gone through all the layers, let's take a look at the final mix. And again, thanks Tyler for putting this all together.
Big thank you to Cactuzz Sounds and the Sound Effects guy. Check out their channels and link in the description below. Just a quick tip, if you are into recording your own Foley, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is to record your Foley more exaggerated than you think you need it. It is easy to take an exaggerated sound and turn it down in your mix, but it is extremely difficult to take a quiet, more natural sound and bring it up in your mix so it cuts through. For feet, I like to add a small twist to my step to get the character of the surface that I'm actually walking on. If you don't go ahead and add a small twist in your steps when you go ahead and actually walk, what ends up happening is you just have a lot of impacts and not a lot of actual footsteps, if that makes any sense. If you'd like to join our Discord and be a part of the next weekly challenge, click the link in the description below. We would love to see you there. Now go make some noise.